Biggest lie that young people are told are that 9 out of 10 businesses fail and that your only route is to go to university and get a career. This is far from the truth. In 2024, 43% of people in the UK had a side hustle and are generating on average £900 per month. But does it sound like 9 out of 10 businesses are failing to you? To me, it doesn't. Now, I've also gone on to start multiple side hustles myself, earning me more than the average. I've now had 6 years experience working with side hustles and networked with hundreds of people in the space. So I've seen a lot of the side hustles that work, some of the businesses that work, and also some of the ones that don't. So let's dive into what I think are the best 5 side hustles that you can start in 2024, how easy it is to earn the average of £900 per month, as well as what the potential startup costs are. The first side hustle we'll talk about is e-commerce. Whether it's Amazon FBA, drop shipping, or selling on TikTok Shop, selling products online is one of the lowest barrier to entry side hustles that most people can replicate. There is a reason the high street is dying. It's because people are moving online to buy stuff. This is Jack's Amazon Club. By the age of 21, he had owned Ferraris, multiple Porsches, and Lamborghinis. I often like to steer clear of highlighting the materialistic side of wealth, but Jack has been earning 7+ figures per year through the power of Amazon and TikTok Shop for multiple years now. I recently went down to visit Jack in his 2 offices and warehouse in Crawley, and I was impressed by the team that he has built and how he has been able to take himself out of the day-to-day runnings of his Amazon FBA business, something that a lot of people would call passive income. E-commerce is purely the process of buying an item and selling that product online, which is often why you see a lot of people selling courses online about it, because it is one of the easiest side hustles that you can start. Unfortunately, there are a ton of scammers in these industries, so make sure you do proper due diligence and always use a vetted mentor. There are a lot of routes into e-commerce, as I just mentioned, but these are the ones we see people doing most of the time. When we talk about Amazon FBA is all about fulfillment, and there's a couple of different selling methods. So you've got retail arbitrage, which is effectively where you buy something in a retail store or even on an online retail store, get a little bit of a markup, whether it's on clearance or something, and then sell it online on Amazon. The next one is wholesale, where you buy at a trade price and sell at the RRP. And then finally, private label, where you go and buy an unbranded product, whether it's white label or completely manufactured by yourself, and you build a brand and start selling that on Amazon. Brand building with drop shipping on Shopify, that's often one that we always hear. Reselling through eBay, whether you're flipping everyday items that people want or the brand new sneakers. And the newest one that people have been blowing up with is selling live on TikTok. Imagine talking directly to your customer as you sell to them. So how easy is it to earn the average income from a side hustle with e-commerce? I would give it a 4 out of 5. I think it's definitely one of the better side hustles that somebody can start. It also won't cost you an arm and a leg. It really depends on the route that you go. If you go down the private label route, it's likely going to cost you a bit more because you've got to order from a manufacturer, you've got to start the branding process, you then have to run the ads. So there's a lot more money that you have to put in to get a private label started. But if you start with reselling or arbitrage or one of the other routes, you could be starting with under £100 or even slightly more. So it'll really depend on the route that you want to go down. Profit margins are likely going to be in the region of about 20% for most e-commerce businesses. So you only need to be selling in the region of about 5K per month to be hitting that 1K average a month. So moving on to our second side hustle. This one is often pushed by scammers and celebrity endorsements. But honestly, if you can learn how to day trade, you can actually make a lot of money. You may never earn as much as a big investment bank will, but as a retail trader, you can make profit that would allow you to leave your full-time job or even have a little bit of money on the side. Now, before I get into this, stay far, far away from anyone pushing you to signal groups. These are just purely routes for people to make money off of you signing up through their codes. They don't care if you make any money, so stay so far away as you can from these scamming groups. Forex, crypto, stocks, options, commodities, whatever it is, trading the market is extremely risky, but highly skilled individuals can make a profit. News in the markets often cause big changes. Just look at how Liz Truss tanked the UK economy, to which we are still paying the price. But this is also a reason that you're probably turning to side hustles now, because everything is so much more expensive. Key thing that you need to know is if you want to start with day trading, unless you get a funded account, you will not make any money, because the actual profitable traders that are not scamming people are probably on average making somewhere between 5 to 10% profit per month. So if you just take those numbers and do the math, if you were starting with £100 trading with your own money, 5 to 10% a month isn't really going to be anything that you can work with. But if you get a funded account, let's say you start at the 10K mark or work your way up to 100K mark, 5 to 10% of those figures make a life-changing difference. In terms of how I would rate this as a side hustle, to make that £900 on average, I'd probably rate it a 3 out of 5. It can be extremely profitable, but the average person is going to lose money. Just look at the stats. More than 70% of people lose money when they day trade. So unless you're very skilled and you don't think you'll be emotional, I'd probably stay away from this one, but it can be extremely profitable. The next side hustle that I want to tell you about is property. There are many types of property side hustles. You've got things like BRRs, HMOs, rent-to-rents, deal sourcing. Take James, for example. He's been working with one of our vetted mentors, Paul Stapleton, on working on how to build his deal sourcing business. Deal sourcing is a low cash option for you to get started in property. You won't actually own the property, but you will start selling deals to investors to make a commission. And the startup costs are pretty reasonable. Apart from a few compliancy things, there isn't too much for you to spend money on because it is a service-based business. You're probably looking at around £1,000 to start a deal sourcing business, which makes it by far the cheapest option to start in property. The point of deal sourcing is to package up deals for investors and make a commission when those deals go through. Paul, for example, can make 10K from one deal. But also a reminder that you can lose deals. Paul and I recently caught up on one of our latest episodes of our podcast where he told me that he lost over 150K in commissions in 2022. Rent to rent is another strategy that you could look at if you wanted to start a property side hustle. It's where you take a long-term rental agreement from a landlord and you sublet it. Whether that's done as a HMO or you do it through Airbnb, you never own the property, but you do take a long-term rent and then you create cash flow as you go. With rent to rent, you're likely going to need in the region of around £5,000 to £7,000 to get started, because you're likely looking at a 2-month upfront rental deposit, which depending on your area could be a couple thousand. And then you will need to furnish the property, otherwise it's not going to rent out. The final property side hustle that I'll mention here is BRRs. This is where you start buying properties, refurbishing them, refinancing and taking your money out of that deal based on how the mortgage gets revalued, and then you rent that out. With the new money that you've got, you go and find another deal. As you are buying properties, this is obviously going to cost you a lot more to get started, as you will need a deposit. You'll also need the ability to take out an interest-only mortgage. Property is a simple side hustle for most because there is such a high demand in the UK for properties, but there are definitely things that you need to be aware of. I would probably rate it as a 4 out of 5 purely because you only need one deal to make more than the average, or maybe one rent-to-rent deal with an occupancy rate of above 80%. Before we go on to the next side hustle, you're quite clearly interested in side hustles and probably don't know where to start, which is why you're watching this video. It's why we've created a free side hustle quiz for you. Answer just over 20 questions and get given a free recommendation of the side hustle that's going to suit your lifestyle. Just head to the link in the description and start with the side hustle. Fourth side hustle that I'd recommend anyone starting in 2024 is a service-based business. There are millionaires and billionaires delivering services globally. Just look at some of the massive businesses like Deloitte or VaynerMedia. Sell a service that delivers value to a customer in demand. There's so many things that fall under a service-based business model. Window cleaning is a service. Social media marketing agencies are a service-based business. If you are someone with a house with dirty windows and didn't own a business, they're going to be more interested in the window cleaner. Whereas if you ask an entrepreneur that wants to grow their business on social media, they're going to be more interested in working with a social media marketing agency. So understand the service that you want to deliver and who your ideal customers are. Everything else will be downstream from working out those two things. Although I should probably tell you, a service-based business will likely take up a lot of your time, but it will also not require a huge upfront investment because it is very much driven by the amount of time that you put into it. So I would rank this as a 4 out of 5. I would also recommend potentially looking into a co-founder for a service-based business. A lot of the success stories I see from service-based businesses very much are co-founder driven. Take profit-driven marketing, for example. Theo and Joe have built a 6-figure digital marketing agency. They stripped away their egos, they identified each other's strengths and weaknesses, with one of them becoming a bit more focused on the technical side of things and one being focused more on growth. They've managed to build an extremely profitable business. And it's allowed them to now hire and build a team to execute on client delivery. And if you wanted to look at how they've done it and apply it potentially to a service-based business yourself, you can always book a 1-hour mentoring session with either Theo or Joe on our MentorME platform. Now, for the final one, which is a little bit controversial, but it is whatever one that you can start and commit commit to. Each side hustle I've just told you is fantastic, but if you don't start any of them and just watch this video, they're completely useless to you. Only valuable side hustle is the one that you can commit to and start. I would suggest using our hustle framework, heart, urgency, spending, time, location, and expertise to determine which one this might be for you. We occasionally run free webinars showing you how to leverage our hustle framework. If you are interested in joining us on our next webinar, just comment below the word hustle and I'll send you the invite. Until my next video, why not check out the Zoom into Success podcast, the podcast where we sit down with either the everyday entrepreneur or those people like yourselves trying to start a side hustle. You'll get a bunch of insight and advice from either entrepreneurs or people struggling with the everyday. Subscribe to stay up to date and I'll see you in the next one.